Hello and welcome. This is Captain Aquarius coming to you on March the 15th of 2018 after an interval of 6 months since the last time that I made one of these videos about a black moon or a full moon. Thank you to all of those who have kindly written in recent months to ask if I'm okay, when there might be another video coming along, and another one of the Aquarian Airlines blog posts in connection with it. I am perfectly okay. Couldn't be better. The last months have been devoted to a couple of things that I have had to manage that have taken priority. One of them is my move from the Sacred Valley near Cusco, Peru, where I had been living for almost 9 years, to the location where I am based now, in Lake Atitlan, Guatemala. You can see my house here in the background with this interesting octagonal tower where I get to do my writing, and I'll turn the computer around so that you get to see the lake itself. This is Lake Atitlan, this magnificent volcanic lake, which Aldous Huxley once described as too much of a good thing. So if you hear a little bit of sort of crashing and roaring sound in the background, it's that the lake is rather turbulent on this rather windy day. It is much better now to be at this lower altitude at my age in a place which is a softer, more feminine water environment than the high altitude, strong sun environment of the Andes Mountains. The other reason, which I'm going to show you here as I go to screen share, why I have not been making these regular videos and blog posts, has to do with my new book, which has just been completed. This is called The Rain on the Nile, which is now available on Amazon CreateSpace in print and Kindle editions. It is very different from the things that I have published before as nonfiction astrology-related books. This one is the Isis and Osiris story, told as a play with music that aims to fuse the medicinal frequencies of the ancient Egyptian ritual theater with the 21st century technologies of light and sound. So more of this as we go along. I will send you a link to it on the blog post that accompanies this video. The main reason, however, is to emphasize that it has not been necessary to do these videos for the last 6 months, because it has been necessary for me instead, you see, to practice what I believe is true, that it is useful for us to do a lot less talking rather than a lot more. It is even useful for us to observe silence in the way that Rumi observed it and Pythagoras observed it as one of the gates of wisdom at a time when people are kept perpetually in fear, as you know, because of the primary condition which has existed on our planet for thousands of years and becomes much more intense now. You know very well what our condition is. We are engaged in a battle for the collective consciousness of humankind, linked with the collective consciousness of cetacean, angelic, and other evolved beings, between forces of light, which aim to assist us and move us in the direction of awakening and freedom and the fulfillment of our sacred destiny as those whose collective consciousness, in fact, creates the hologram of the universe itself. And on the other hand, there are the forces of darkness that aim to retard our evolution, to distract and derail it, and even to destroy it completely. You know very well also what specific emotional frequencies are connected with these two positions. Those who aim to move us toward the light are in the frequency of love and the related emotions of bliss, joy, and courage. those who aim to move us in the direction of fear and anxiety are endlessly in the emotional band of rage and fear and shame and grief, and are determined to put us there as well, because we know very well how these emotional frequencies work. Love unites and empowers. Fear isolates and weakens. And so therefore, it is obvious that there are a number of different actors, agencies, entities, human, extraterrestrial, that are determined to do whatever they can to keep us in fear. And the emotional temperature obviously is increasing now, as we are at the point where those dark beings who know that they are cornered now and they have only so much time before they are going to have to take off and disappear or transmute, are in conditions of fear and panic so intense that naturally they are talking endlessly about, altogether now, World War III. Forget World War III. It is not going to happen. It is not our sacred destiny that any such thing as a planetary nuclear destruction should occur, even though obviously there are going to be some changes, some of them unpleasant, that have to take place on the planet now. The main focus of our attention right now, however, from this day, when Mercury has gone direct after a retrograde period, and we are in fact at March 15th, on the day of the black moon in the sign of Aries, the beginning of the new lunar cycle, which continues until a month from now, which is what we will be focusing on in this video, because the emphasis here is so much now on our money more than anything else, and endless worry and fear about the whole subject of money, whether the financial system is going to collapse. And so we are going to look a little bit at the condition of the petrodollar as it is increasingly in the process of evaporating and ceasing to exist, being replaced now by other currencies which may be used for the purchase of oil. A petrodollar, as you can see here, means simply that a United States dollar is used as the medium of exchange in an oil transaction that may involve any buyer and seller, not necessarily the United States itself. So that any countries who are engaged in deals for oil have had to use the American dollar ever since the 1970s, when Richard Nixon engineered the Bretton Woods Agreement that made the United States dollar the reserve currency of the world, and the next step, which you see being negotiated here by the famous war criminal Henry Kissinger and King Faisal of Saudi Arabia, was that the American dollar had to be tied to the trade in oil. So that from this time, it has happened that every transaction for the purchase and the sale of oil has had to be done in American dollars, because the United States was determined to keep this extremely lucrative arrangement in effect. And we can look a little bit here about why it is that this has been so necessary. We're going to come out of the slideshow for a moment and look at something else. Here's a brief explanation, usefully, of the petrodollar that we see on the website of Lance Jepson, the master of the Guerrilla StockTrading.com website. The petrodollar system has proven to be very beneficial to the U.S. economy since the 1970s. Many of the oil-producing nations agreed not only to sell their oil in exchange for U.S. dollars instead of their own currency, but they also agreed to take those excess profits and then invest them back into the safety of U.S. government bonds. So in essence, the U.S. receives a double loan out of every single barrel of oil that is sold worldwide. So every global oil transaction, every barrel of oil that is sold on the world markets increases the demand for U.S. dollars and U.S. debt securities. So we go back to our images here as we resume. And we look at one of those people who unfortunately tried to sell his oil for a currency other than United States dollars and paid the price for it. The entire business with the Iraq War was nothing but a scam and a cover that had to be created for the process of eliminating this man who dared to defy the petrodollar system. Here's another one. This is Muammar Gaddafi of Libya, who tried to do the same thing with the same result. He was murdered as well on some other pretext that had nothing to do with anything that he was up to except wanting to have the freedom to sell Libya's oil in a currency other than the US dollar. And here's another person whom the United States has not yet succeeded in bumping off, but who knows, perseverance furthers, as the I Ching said. You never know what they are going to do. They have not yet succeeded in eliminating Mahmoud Ahmadinejad of Iran. Now, especially, he is in less danger of having this happen because of what is going on in the arrival of, in fact, the Petroyuan, the fact that the government of China has recently begun to buy oil with the Chinese yuan and has attracted allies who will assist them in doing this. As Jim Rickards notes here in a recent Twitter post, RIP petrodollar. Now that Russia will sell oil for yuan, and other countries obviously are going to do it as well, Iran, Venezuela, it is only a matter of time before they all show up at the shop to buy their oil in their currencies, with the understanding that they can buy it in whatever currency they want to pay, and then they swap it for gold. The implication of this, obviously, is that the United States dollar is no longer involved. The situation here is described well by Texas Congressman Ron Paul. We're going to come out of slides for a minute here and look at something that he said, which is, as we notice here, the chaos that one day will ensue from our 35-year experiment with fiat money will require a return to money of real value. We will know that day is approaching when oil-producing countries demand gold or its equivalent for their oil rather than dollars or euros. The sooner the better. What's a fiat currency? A fiat currency is simply something that is not backed by anything that guarantees its value. The traditional backing of currency, as you know, was done by gold or silver. After that, there was the phrase that this currency is backed by the full faith and credit of the government, whatever the government is. So we agree collectively that we're going to sort of trust that the government knows what it's doing and it has something to back the currency. Now, what the United States has had ever since the period of when the Federal Reserve was founded back in 1913 is a currency which is really based only on the issuance of debt. So that when people are buying United States dollars, ultimately they are buying American debt. And they are taking a gamble that what they are buying has real value. Obviously, it does not. And at the same time, that the United States dollar has become so dependent on the oil trade, you can see what the implication of it is here. The oil trade involving United States petrodollars is really, at this point, virtually the only major prop that is holding the economy up. Like the Spanish Empire, which began to decline in the 17th century when the supply of silver from the mines of Potosi in Bolivia began to get scarce, placed them in the position, you see, of having to recover from a period of excessive long dependence on the silver supply alone. It was so abundant that further innovation and discovery in other sectors of the Spanish economy were very much not needed anymore. A kind of complacency and stagnation set in, which is obviously what's going on here. However, what we notice now is that as the American dollar continues to erode, the emphasis is so much on backing resources of gold and silver, which we see riding up on the mountain in the background, and which are going to be a much better basis for the support of actual currencies of value than the continual increase in United States debt, which in fact can never be repaid. We also notice here, strangely enough, given the situation that now exists, a country may buy oil with its own currency, and then that currency can be swapped for gold. The United States, incredibly, amazingly, is in the situation in which they may as well be throwing bars of gold over the fence while the people on the other side, the Chinese, the Russians, whoever else wants to buy oil, is throwing back American dollars. And so this is the situation that we are in now. It has motivated the current fourth Baron de Rothschild. That is, this is Jacob Rothschild, whose family name is usually mispronounced as Rothschild, but was in fact derived from the German word Rothschild, which means red shield, who has withdrawn virtually all the resources of the Rothschild banking combine out of the United States. One of a number of very powerful major investors who have decided that the American dollar, the American economy in general, is no longer a safe bet for them. And we proceed here. Naturally, there is a great deal of fear and panic connected with a lot of these things. Predictions are in the air, as you know, of financial collapse by the end of April, financial collapse during the month of May. As you see here, the prediction says that this is likely to happen on May the 21st. But there is a very different emphasis here, you see, when we are coming to look at a different image that I seem to have lost here momentarily. I'm going to have to find it again. Give me a moment here, folks. This is the astrology chart of the new moon, or I should say the black moon, that is coming on May the 15th next month, a month from now. Because what is happening at this time that is so extremely important to us is the fact that this is the month when the planet Uranus is going to enter the sign of Taurus, with all that this implies, you see, because we are at a point now of a major planetary transition here, which I will show you the chart of now. Sorry to have gotten this out of order and disturbed the design here. We begin to look at this, and only a few things to tell you about it. The chart is cast for the moment when the planet Uranus, who is right here looking like the letter H, enters the sign of Taurus. Uranus has an orbit of 84 years, which means that he is in each zodiac sign for a period of about 7 years. He is about to move From the warrior sign, the fiery, explosive, potentially violent, conflictive sign of Aries, ruled by Mars the warrior, into the sign of Taurus, which is the money sign ruled by Venus. It is the sign of money, of art and beauty, and especially in the astrology chart, is connected with the second house of money. Therefore, it means that the energy of Uranus, the revolutionary, the bringer of change, the innovator, the creator of surprising, shocking, even upsetting events and effects, is moving out of the Aries domain of disturbance and potentially violent action, manifesting in recent years, obviously, as military conflict, as violent false flag attacks, as civil disturbances, as police murdering innocent people. Everything else that may be connected with this is now yielding to a time beginning on May the 15th, when Uranus is now in the sign of money, with all that this implies. There will be more about this that we can look at as we go along in videos that will ensue in this series, including something about cryptocurrencies, which is obviously another Uranian event, highly controversial, which inevitably comes now, as May is a month in which new tokens, new crypto coins are going to be introduced. Major changes of value in cryptocurrencies are expected to come early in the month of May. In the middle of the month of May, it will not be the least bit surprising if, in fact, this happens in very close conjunction with the entry of Uranus into the sign of Taurus on May the 15th. So this will be enough for now. We can look at cryptocurrencies later, but the important thing to see at this point is that the money itself is not the issue. And what is going on really is part of the endless process and system of attempting to maintain control by scaring you, scaring us all about money. Those who have the money are not worried about losing it. What they are worried about is that the rest of us are going to wake up and we are going to understand something about the endless beating of the fear drum. It is necessary that we come to equanimity, that we assure other people that it is all right. If we live in fear, we are going to get fearsome results. If we live in love, we are going to get very different results. Therefore, it is incumbent upon us to live in love as much as we can. We will talk more about these things later. Thanks for your time today. All blessings to you. And this is Captain Aquarius again saying for now, thank you at this magnificent Aries black moon of March the 15th, 2018, and everything that begins to unfold from now as the warrior planet of Mars within a few days yields precedence to Venus the lover, Venus the artist, Venus the one who above all is the master of attraction. She looks at whichever she wants. She says, come here, I want you, and it comes because she has a clear, single-minded focus on what she intends, and she has no doubt whatsoever that she deserves it. That's why the people who are clear about their goals and their sense of deserving do beautifully now. The people who have a challenged sense of deserving may find it a bit rockier. So therefore, how do we fortify our sense of deserving? How do we reassure ourselves that we are lovable and worthy as beings of love and wisdom and truth? As long as we tell the truth, we are fine. one of the things that the Lady Ma'at, the knitter of truth, says in my play, The Rain on the Nile, when she is asked, what is truth? Is that truth is love. They are the same thing. You can't love and lie at the same time. So let us live in truth, love, and our sense of deserving will be much easier to find. Bless you all for now until we see each other again. Happy trails and wonderful high frequencies and outcomes in everything you do.